next application is VRB 19-51.
Property address is 4144 North Armenia Avenue. Applicant name is Mid-Atlantic Investments Incorporated. Agent's name is Todd Pressman. The applicant is seeking to increase the sign square footage area from 50 to 240 square feet, increase in height from 20 feet to 29 feet, and reduce the front yard setback from 15 feet to 1 foot to allow 40 additional square feet to an existing freestanding sign. The lot is zoned CG, Commercial General, and was purchased in 1986. The commercial complex was constructed in 1988. The site is currently going through a change of use under a building permit. ERC had no issue with the request. Let me show you where this is. This is on North Armenia, north of the downtown area. This large building here with other buildings in the back. This is the site plan that's included in your area. There's an existing freestanding sign right here on Armenia. This is the proposal. Staff believes this is the existing sign. There's a picture of it. This is the proposed. Currently, it's a non-conforming sign based on the new sign code. It was probably okay back in the 80s. But now they're wanting to add more to it, so they have to increase the sign square footage from 50 square feet to what they're asking, 240. Staff is here if you have further questions.
Mr. Pressman, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South in St. Petersburg, Florida, number 451. I have a PowerPoint for you. If we could pull that up, please. There we go. So to orient you, the site is to the east of the airport, pretty much mid-Tampa. What's very important here, Mr. Chairman, board members, is that this lot size is drastically different than all the surrounding and even the nearby properties. So as you can see from the property appraiser, this site is composed of 3 very large buildings, very deep into the property, or very deep from North Armenia, where every other property along North Armenia is very small, serves as an office, which this does. It is dramatically larger in scope, in density, and in size than anything else along the entire area of North Armenia. So by the property appraiser, you can see it's actually a complex of buildings which are under change. They're changing to medical and business offices, zone CG. This is another view of it. I know the different 3 buildings for you. And again, even on this close view, you can see it is dramatically different in terms of size and scope and mass and density than anything else in the immediate area except for the hospital, which is a little bit to the south. So this is the one building from the roadway. This is the second building. You can see its scope and size, and the third to the rear. A total of 59,000 leasable square feet. So those are elements that do create the site to be unique and singular in regard to what's proposed before you. So let's talk about signage. So again, as Joel has indicated to you, there is an existing sign here. And again, the site is under a change of use. And this is the picture of the existing sign. So it's at 240 square feet, 29 feet high, 1 foot front setback. It's permissible as non-conforming. So what we're proposing today is really just a small change to add that small area, 40 square feet, to the sign. Why is that being requested? Well, this site has tremendous challenges. It has numerous, dozens and dozens of tenants who are located very deep into the lot, which are invisible to the roadway, unlike every other lot, unlike every other business and office along North Armenia. buried by Google, as I have it, about 645 feet deep, more or less, into the residential. Many freestanding signs would normally be permitted, and that's where some of the difficulty is. The sign code has difficulty, it actually is impossible to place the site like this into any kind of scope of square footage that works. Obviously, the building signage is not gonna work because it's located further from the roadway behind other buildings. So this site has a tremendous hardship for signage and visibility, minimal for the many patients who are trying to visit the site, office tenants or customers of office tenants who are trying to visit the site as well, to have any minimal visibility. So in summary, again, it's unique and singular property, much different than anything else in the immediate area, even in the immediate vicinity. It's very large, very deep, it has high density. It does create a hardship, particularly into how signage works on the site. The wall signs are ineffective. What's proposed today is a small increase, but it is desperately needed considering the use of the site. So with that, we appreciate your consideration. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right. First, we'll ask if there's anybody else in the audience that would like to speak on this application, either for or against. Seeing none. Board, do you have any questions?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
For Mr. Pressman. So in the summary of the request, it says to increase the sign area from 50 feet to 240. Should that really say to increase it by 50 feet to 240?
If I may pull that back up, we could pull the, well, I have it here.
Joel Souza, Land Development. Point of order, he's going from the current code allowance.
Oh, okay.
That's where he's going from. The current code would allow him to only do 50 square feet.
Oh, I see. All
So
right.
that's why he's asking for the 50.
And that being,
Going from 50.
that being part of the difficulty, that, as I indicated, the sign code just doesn't apply itself well at this site.
All right, that answers that. Thank you.
My question is more for Mr. Sousa. Joel, if we were, let's just talk about what the current code would allow. If we were to say, okay, you get your 50 square feet, would it be allowed in this location? Or where would the current code permit the signage to be placed?
If you took at 29 feet, he's looking at probably 30 feet back almost to be 29 feet. Because he's got, generally you have to be 20 feet, you got to be 15 feet at the setback. Got a 15-foot setback, and you can go up 1 foot for every foot after that. So he would be in the middle of a parking lot, and drive aisles if he was going to be compliant with that respect.
But if we were just working with the allowable limits, it would be allowed in this location, or he'd still have to move back?
No, it would not. He would need the setback. He would need that front setback.
Okay, and how many feet would the front setback be under the allowable
Well,
signage?
basically, he would be going from 15 feet to whatever he requires.
Oh, okay, right, so 15 is the allowable
Yes, sir. That's where it
placement,
starts.
and he's at one because that's where the current sign is.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Joel, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
And this may not even relate to the applicant's needs, but they are allowed to have more square footage of signage on the building, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's based on the lineal footage of the building as it relates directly to the right-of-way?
Yes, sir. The problem with the building, though, is you have to, in order for each tenant to have their sign, they have to have access to the right-of-way.
Okay.
Their front door has to locate
Has
to
to
the right-of-way
face the
for
right-of-way.
that tenant to get their individual wall sign.
Right, okay, so this is the property owner's, landlord's only way to get their tenants' names out on the street,
Unless
albeit they may not be very large signs. but-
Unless they go to an LED message center, yes, sir.
Okay, well, he's
That's
not
right.
asking for that.
He's
so
not
don't
asking,
go there.
that's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay,
That's correct.
so with the change in use, they've figured out how many potential tenants, I guess, they're gonna, well, I could ask Mr.
It appears
Pressman.
there's quite a few,
Yeah,
yes.
let me ask Mr. Pressman.
Yes, sir.
In fairness to him.
Yes, sir.
So you heard where I was going. So I guess in the change of use, the owner of the property is anticipating more tenants, more individual tenants.
Quite a few, yes, sir.
Okay, but if you, based on the graphic you showed us, you're only adding what appears to be about 8 or 10 name slots.
Well, there certainly is hope that there will be enough room for tenants that want it. There is not nearly enough room
For all the
for other tenants. I mean, we're not going to come forward and ask for another 100 square feet. We looked at the situation, we looked at the existing sign, the hardships, and balanced it. Sure, we'd love to have another 150 square feet, but that's not reasonable,
Right.
and that's not capable on the existing sign. So we're trying to find a solution for as many of the tenants as reasonably possible.
Okay. Don't have any other questions? Anybody else? Go ahead, Ms. Long.
Mr. Pressman, you want to move it, it's currently, what did you tell me, 10 feet back, setback currently, current sign?
No, he's at 1
It
foot.
says 1 foot.
He's at 1
1
foot.
foot.
But it's currently 10 feet back, and you want to bring it up to only
No,
1
no.
foot back, am I correct?
We're asking for it to be where it's existing now. There would be no change of
Okay,
placement
okay.
of the existing
Oh,
sign.
okay, that
Because
was-
we're dealing with an older site here on Armenia, and moving the sign's impossible. It would be in a parking lot if we had
Here's what
needs.
you said,
I'm sorry, ma'am?
the current sign is 32 feet high, 236 square feet at a 10-foot front setback, and we want to have a 1-foot front setback.
I think that was
That's what it says.
I think that was the first notice.
So you want to move that 9 feet closer to the street?
No, it should be the 1-foot setback.
Just reading your.
Have to come in close.
Point to the property line and then the sign itself,
Property line's right here.
okay? And the sign is back
Sign's right
more,
next to it, sorry, right here.
yeah, the sign appears to be more than a foot
It
from the
does.
property line.
10 foot.
So it
Says.
probably, that might be a typo in our agenda, maybe.
No,
Could be.
it's in the package.
It's in the package, oh, okay.
It's in the package, but
That they're asking to go to 1 foot?
it says 1 foot, but there is a point in the packet where it does say 10 feet. It's-
It says the current setback is 10 feet.
Hang on, I'm gonna go, another question, I'm just trying to see when this thing was done. 95,
right there.
so it's a very old survey, there could be issues.
It's not a survey.
It,
It's the application.
yeah, my application is knowing 10
No.
feet. 10-foot setback.
Right.
Okay, well, Mr. Pressman, your testimony would be that the sign is how far from the front property line currently?
My understanding is the existing setback is 10 feet.
Okay,
So I would say that we're asking for the existing setback to remain.
to remain at 10 feet?
Yes.
That's your testimony?
Is that good?
So you don't want a variance on the setback,
Well, no,
right?
you do need a variance because the height of the sign, it would be even further back. You need a
How the
reduction.
sign is what?
The sign's not.
Joel, that's,
sir.
yeah, he's not moving the sign. so
Correct.
that's
No,
why.
no, it's not moving.
Otherwise, it would be in the
Okay,
median that's
15 to
closest to the
10.
building.
Yes, it would be.
You want a variance to make it 15 to 10, right?
Well, no, it's taller, so the actual variance required based on the current height would be closer to 29 feet, correct? Or somewhere, right.
The height from 20 to 29.
The
But
setback,
the setback,
under the current code, would be further back than 10 feet.
oh, it would.
Yes.
What would it be?
The height of the sign requires it further back.
Right.
We only allow it to 20 feet. He's requested 29.
But that's height.
Right,
I'm talking about front setback. I don't care about the height. I've already got that
right,
figured
but
out.
but your setback is determined by height.
That's what I'm asking you.
Right.
If he goes to 29, how far would the code say his setback has?
15 feet.
15?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And he says he wants to reduce it from 15 to 1,
Correct. That's what he's saying.
but he says it's 10 already.
That's what he's saying.
So he wants to move it 9 feet closer to the road?
I have the front setback existing at 10 feet, and that's what we're asking for under the variance.
But you could allow him to be at 10 feet. If he's noticed for 1, you can give him 10.
right, okay.
Say that again, if he's
If he's requested for 1, if he requested for 1 foot setback, he can take a 10-foot setback. You can't give him closer than the 1 foot. you can give him further back. If you notice for 1 foot, the board can agree to go push it further back
Right.
based on the request.
Mr. Pastor?
I have another different question. The, the part of the existing sign that says for lease, is that technically not part of the existing sign?
That's just a temporary sign. Temporary signs are
Okay,
permissible.
so effectively, I mean, realistically, you're adding 40 feet to the real sign.
That's correct.
But effectively, you're only adding approximately 10 square feet of new covered area, because you're only going one strip lower than what's there right now.
I mean, the request is for 40 square feet.
Yeah, I get it.
What is the 1 foot setback?
1 foot. 1 foot.
I will-
Okay.
I will.
I will make a correction. I'm gonna make a correction. The bottom line is we're asking for the variance on setback to be where the sign's existing. I did notice it a 1 foot setback. So I think on the safe side, with all liberty, if you are gonna move forward, let's do the 1 foot setback because the sign's staying where it is. I mean, it's not gonna move. So I would ask for the 1 foot setback to make sure you don't have an error. That will not have any effect on the variance because it's gonna be where the sign is existing. If I may ask for that deference and for your consideration, thank you. That will just eliminate any errors.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Pressman, do you have the picture of the sign, the public notice sign that was put out?
I probably do, yeah. Do you have it, Joe? Oh. Oh. So increase sign area, increase sign height, reduce the front size. Yeah, the sign notice is to 1 foot.
Just so they can
Thank
see.
Yep.
We're going up and down, in and out. See, there we go.
The bottom line is the variance would be to where the sign is existing. So I think if you were to move in that direction, that would be correct, and it's going to be where the existing sign is. So the 1 foot erases any possible error, and I appreciate your deference on that.
Just for my clarity, legal, if we approve its current location, we've had testimony that that's 10 feet. So in essence, we'd be approving a 10-foot setback, not a 1 foot setback.
Yes, that would be correct.
Right, because if we approved a 1 foot setback, the sign could actually, well, the
Move
sign
9
couldn't
feet
come
closer.
down because it'd be a new site plan, correct?
Right, well, I don't know that you necessarily have to put the feet in there if you want to just reference the existing location,
existing
just in case
location.
there is
That'd be great.
Okay.
a different
Only 9 and a
spot
half.
for it.
Okay, because it may be 9.5 feet, we don't know.
Right, and
Right.
we don't want to have a code enforcement issue
Right.
with that.
Okay.
He's smarter
I
than
go
me.
with that. I'm just not willing to go to 1 foot.
All right, now, are there any more questions for either the applicant or staff? Okay, seeing none, there was nobody in the audience, right? All right, somebody like to move to close the public hearing? Or, well, actually, you get your 5 minutes of rebuttal.
Wait, thank
You'll
you.
waive it, okay.
Appreciate your time.
Somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
Also move.
All right, we're now in either board discussion or a motion. What is the board's pleasure?
I propose that we approve based on existing setback without assigning a foot to it. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're all in agreement on that. Any other comments? I mean, I would concur with what we heard tonight with the applicant, that this property is uniquely different than most properties in its size and the orientation of multiple buildings, with only one being actually on the main access road. So it does create a unique and different situation that our sign code doesn't seem to want to speak to.
Jared,
Yes?
that's right. Would that need to be a conditioned approval to say existing, or would you just do normal approval and read it without saying the 1 foot?
Let me see here. So you're to consider approval. I guess because the site plan didn't show a measurement. Is that what the issue
Right.
is?
Not a
That's the
finite measurement.
Do we need to bifurcate the side and height? Or size and height from the setback and
I think
condition
we've
that
heard, no, I
on-
mean, we heard adequate testimony from the applicant that they were okay with the existing location of the
I don't-
sign.
But
I don't know
that's
if
what
we
I'm
can
saying. To put the motion together, it seems to me we would do the side, height and size in the motion and condition it upon the sign remaining in its current location.
Legal, I'll defer to you.
I'm still processing the first question, but I do think that it would probably be a more simple approach to just state it as a condition that the variance is approved, conditioned on the existing location of the sign, and then I'm sorry, but what was
Size
your
and height,
question again?
that's basically what I was
Of
saying,
what the
yeah.
original, or what
Yeah,
the.
just approve the height and the size and condition it on the site, the sign staying where it is.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay, we're all agreed.
Or,
Which is a
or
single
could we
location.
just say that we're vesting the setback?
Well, I think of vesting is a term of art with a little bit different connotation. I think that
Condition
Ms.
better.
Long's suggestion would be a simple way to approach it.
Okay, I'm gonna try. Move that variance request for case VRB 1951 located at 4144 North Armenia Avenue as depicted on the site plan and presented at the public hearing for an increase. This is not right on my, an increase to 240 square feet.
No, actually, he's at that. He's adding 40 feet.
To make it 240, right?
Don't think
It
so.
says,
Okay.
Well, maybe it is.
Increase existing 236 square feet by 40 feet to allow existing 29-foot height and to allow existing front setback with the condition that the location size of this, location and height of the sign remain as is. And that said variance had conditioned be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code. Specifically, that he has a unique and singular lot that has an unusually large number of tenants that are in an unusually deep lot and have no access to road signage or reasonable building signage, and that the existing sign gives them a practical use of having some sort of business recognition on the street.
Okay, do we have a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Ms. Oh, Michael already did? Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Michael already did, that's fine. I didn't-
All right, seconded by Mr. Villa. Motion to approve with the conditions stated by Mr. Pastor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board.
Okay, our next applicant will be VRB 19-71.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I've been advised by City Council that according to Florida Statute 112-31433A, that being that I live in the notice area of this property, that I should ask to be recused.
okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Commissioner Villa today, and I'll be working with him to get the form filed, and if, based on the fact that he lives in the notice area, it could be a potential conflict.
Okay, all right. You can be excused. Come back later.
We'll see you later. Okay, now we got a different four of us.
So before we get into a presentation, should we ask the applicant if they want to proceed tonight?
Yes.
Now that we only
Yes.
have 4 people voting and he needs all 4 votes, or she needs all 4 votes?
I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
If you do want to ask the applicant, we can clarify that under the rules of procedure, to approve an application, the board is required to have 4 votes. And so since there are only 4 members, you would need unanimous approval tonight in order to successfully get approval of your application.
How many would it be to deny?
If you want, you can, I guess,
Yeah, you
we
can
can
come
have,
up.
you can come up and state your name, and then we can talk about it.
Address and who you been
Good
speaking.
evening, Sam Stein. Thank you, Chairman and the board. Just would like to know, with 4 people, is there a different ratio for denial?
So denial.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, well,
sorry.
there is. You need 4 affirmative votes to get approval. You only need 3 negative votes for disapproval.
Okay, we'd like to proceed then.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, so
We'll
if
proceed.
you want to proceed, that's your
Yes, please.
decision. Okay.
Also, if I could add to that, Mr. Chairman, if one of the board members moves for approval and you don't get the 4 votes, it automatically will continue to next month's hearing.
Well, that's if it's a tie vote.
Or-
If we take another vote for denial, then
Okay.
he could be disapproved with 3 votes.
Okay.
Correct? Correct.
It's okay,
Yeah.
sure,
You're new.
all right.
You're also.
Believe me, I was on the board for 7 years and just learned this.
Okay, all right.
You ready?
Okay, go ahead, Joel,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We'll work through it.
We'll move
VRB 1971, property address is 615 Channelside Drive. Applicant name is CBP Development, agent is Sam Stein. The applicant is seeking to increase the sign area from 2,086 square feet to 3,340 square feet. Allow the placement of signage on any portion of the building regardless of frontage. Allow tenants to install multiple signs and types. Reduce the minimum elevation of a projecting sign from 10 feet to 9 feet for clearance above the pedestrian way. The lot owned by the Tampa Port Authority Zone PDA, Plan Development Alternative. The commercial complex was constructed in 2000. The site has active building permits for permit renovations. DRC had no issue with this request. Let me show you where this is. This is the downtown area. This is Channelside, the aquarium, the subject property. In your package. The staff member will rely on the applicant to describe what's going on, since this member does not know hardly anything about this case.
Oh, and Miss Moore reappeared. All right, no other staff members, so applicant, please come forward. Mr. Stein, you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Board. Again, my name is Sam Stein, Development Manager with Strategic Property Partners. And I do have a PowerPoint to display. So here today to ask the Board's approval for a signage variance for Sparkman Wharf, formerly Channelside Bay Plaza. And just briefly, Sparkman Wharf is an anchor to the Water Street Tampa development, which you may be aware is in downtown, about 53 mixed-use development that is moving forward right now. And Sparkman Wharf, as staff had shown, is located here on the map in the southeast corner of our property site. It is currently a container park as well as a large mixed-use building that's currently under renovation. Formerly Channelside Plaza, which is currently under renovation, to turn it from just a retail center into a mixed-use building with second floor office and ground floor retail. So I'd like to just walk through kind of a higher level summary of the hardship it's more detailed in our application. But in general, the reason this property is unique is it is one of the only sites within the Water Street Tampa development that is located outside of the CBD district and actually located within the Channel District. So there are additional regulations that are imposed on this property that won't be imposed on the rest of our development, and we believe this will inhibit the connectivity and the coherency of our overall project, because we do believe this is an anchor of our development. Additionally, it is one of the largest commercial mixed-use properties within the Channel District, whereas most buildings are residential and have some small mix of uses on the ground floor. This is almost 90,000 square feet of retail, over 150,000 square feet of office, including more or less a private park and container park. So it is quite unique, and again, it's located outside of the CBD. We believe that the current regulations, specifically focusing on signage, inhibit some retail vibrancy, the character and success of the retail ground floor, in one way by restricting multiple sign types, which prevents retailers from expressing their brand and creating a more pedestrian-focused environment. A lot of the signage code that was developed in this area was developed at a time when the Channel District was really more of an industrial area focused on vehicular traffic. And that's kind of a holdover right now of how the signage code plays out, really allowing only retailers to use one large sign on their site. And additionally, as we know, the subject site has had a long history of hardship, economically speaking, with a lot of failure from a retail standpoint of keeping a viable site. That's one thing that we're hoping to change by focusing again on the ground floor presence and the pedestrian experience. And we believe that our asks are consistent with the Tampa Comprehensive Plan in that it does give special priority to the pedestrian environment, it improves the downtown streetscape, and it concurs with the redevelopment of existing commercial structures, enhancing building facades, signage, landscaping, and the economic viability of the retail spaces. So we'll go into the ask real quick. We're really asking just for 4 variances within the signage code. I'll quickly walk through those. The first of which is we are asking for a change in the calculation of square footage per linear foot. So in the CBD district and the rest of the Water Street Tampa development, it is 2 square feet per linear foot of frontage. Within the Channel District and at Sparkman Wharf, it's 1.25. So we're just asking to increase that to what's already allowed in the CBD district to be consistent. Second, we're asking for frontage signage to be reallocated to any frontage. Right now, we have a lot of frontage that faces the water. The intent is not to put a lot of signage facing the water. We'd like to use that allotted square footage in other key areas, like the entrance to the container park, the entrance to the office lobby, and kind of redistribute that as needed on the site. Third is to allow the combination of building or wall signs with projecting signs, which is consistent with downtown as well. So this would allow a retailer to have a main building sign as well as a projecting sign like a blade sign. Currently it's restricted to 1 sign, and that would just be either a building sign or a projecting sign. And then the last is really just asking to lower the clearance of a 10-foot minimum of blade signs down to 9 feet, which we think is a little bit more pedestrian in scale. Additionally, asking for the current container signs, which have blade signs, to be put into code that they're allowed to be lower than that at their current height, which is existing. So in terms of the signage amount and allocation, up here you can kind of see a site plan with our main frontages. Again, the main ask here is that we want to be able to reallocate some of the channel facing and Garrison Street facing frontage to other higher priority areas like the office lobby entrance, as well as the office users along Channelside Drive. Again, the square footage ask is consistent with CBD, as well as the rest of our Water Street Tampa neighborhood. Next, just want to talk a little bit about the combination of signage. So having one sign only really forces the retailer to put in all of their square footage allocation into the largest sign they can, which is what you may have seen at previous retailers like the former Hooters space that was there. we'd like to break down those signage components into more pedestrian scale signage. So adding blade sides, canopy signs, awning signs, to really focus more on a streetscape and an opportunity for retailers to express their brand. We think that this helps the economic viability of retailers and creates a better pedestrian-focused experience. So if you have a retailer, you can put a blade sign which caters to the person walking down Channelside Drive, but also have a reasonably sized wall sign that drivers and people on the trolley can see as well. Here's just a couple precedents. So you can see on the left a lot of examples within the Channel District and other areas of downtown where you really have one main sign. It prevents the retailer from a lot of times expressing their brand and really just limits them to one large vehicular focus sign. We believe by breaking it down, you get something more along the lines of what you see to the right, where retailers can express their brand through blade signs, canopies, awnings, and building signs, and it creates a richer public realm. Here are a few renderings of Sparkman Wharf, which are public. Hopefully you've seen these. We're really excited about the renovation. This is the entrance to the site where the former Hooters was. And you can kind of see along the left-hand side there the blade sign sticking out, which would be identifiable markers for the pedestrian, something that wouldn't be allowed with a normal building sign as well. And then here is our proposed office lobby, which if you drive by now is getting constructed. And again, you can see the combination of building signs, blade signs. We have a large address sign that we're proposing above the lobby, and potentially some office signage. And this goes to show that we have a need to reallocate signage to this frontage, which is extremely long and for a very long time has been mundane. It's hard to break it up. So one of our goals is to break up this really long frontage and keep it interesting to keep people walking down the street. And then I just want to talk a little bit about our role as the landlord in this property. So although we are asking for an increase of signage, that doesn't mean that we intend to give all that signage to the retailers. We impose further restrictions on all of our retailers through something called a Tenant Design Criteria Manual. This is something that we'll do for all of our properties in Water Street. And basically what it is it focuses on the public realm experience and the storefronts and the signage of all of our retailers. It's a pretty in-depth guideline that limits the amount of signage that they can have, that ensures high quality materials and standards so that despite them having to comply with city code, they also have to comply with a design criteria manual. So we ensure that we have the best quality experience for our retailers and our pedestrians. So just a few snapshots to show you through parts of the manual. For example, we have elevations that limit exactly where, which follows the Tampa City Code, but also has further restrictions of where they can put tenant brand expression, where they can put awnings, where they're required to put awnings, things like that. We even break it down further into each storefront type. So for example, this tenant is only allowed to put its building sign on a canopy. That is a base building canopy, so it will have a canopy sign, and it can only be a certain height, and its letters can only be made of certain materials to ensure high quality standards. So we do this for the entire retail experience. Again, we go through things like shading elements, what awnings and canopies can look like, what signage can be like, what materials they can use, what materials they can't. For example, we restrict things like just box lit signs that are very cheaply made and don't have a great aesthetic. Those are something that we restrict on our tenants as well. So this is really just to show our intention of really building a vibrant retail corridor, and that we believe this signage variance will help us do that. Again, you can see located at the top right, at no time shall a letter height exceed 18 inches for leading capitals and 12 inches for lowercase, and that the overall signage can't be over a certain square footage. So again, despite us asking for more overall signage to redistribute, that doesn't mean the retailers just get more signage per their space.
Good.
And
can you wrap it up in
Yep.
about a minute or so?
Yes, I can.
I'll give you more time.
No worries. And then last, I'd just like to say, we have, hopefully you've all been able to visit the site, but we have received 3 awards on our signage that is in the container park, bringing just good recognition to the Tampa Bay area and our building retail in the downtown area. So just wanted to show that, this is something we hope to continue to provide and bring great recognition to the area. Again, here is our general statement of hardship, which you have it detailed in front of you. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? State your name, address, and if you've been sworn.
Actually, I'm with SPP. I
Oh.
have been sworn, and I just, for the matter of the record, would like Sam to confirm that he's been sworn as well.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I have been
you
sworn.
have been sworn. I'm
Thank
sorry. We missed that. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, board questions for the applicant or staff? It must have been a really good presentation. All right. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
The only thing I would say is we did reach out, we did get some calls from neighboring properties, specifically the Channelside Towers, and they offered their support. They wanted to see kind of a vibrant retail experience and have been happy with what they've seen so far. So we did get several calls of support from them.
And a question.
Oh, wait, we do have a question.
So the only increase in allowable square footage you're asking for is from the 1.25 to 2.
Yes,
That's right?
not more for, per space or things like that.
And then you want to redistribute that to other parts of the building.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the 1.25 only exists in a small part of the Channel District, and the larger district is 2 already?
So in the Channel District, there's an overlay. So it's
The-
within the
the whole
Channel
Channel
District, but
District is
the rest of
1.25.
Water Street is in CBD, and that
Okay.
that is 2, yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question for staff. There's in the agenda, it refers to urban design approval. I'm assuming that's why Mr. Callahan's here. I just wondered what,
If I might interrupt, I have not been sworn. Mea culpa, I'm sorry.
Oh, no. We gotta rehear that previous case.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
thanks, Mike, and sorry about that. As for the previous case, I don't think it'll be an issue.
No, I don't
since
think
that
it
case was approved. But I was just wondering, what is the criteria for your is what is being proposed a delegation of the
Well, we
board's
actually
authority
didn't
to
approve
you?
it. There was no metric for us to approve this, okay? It's the 1.25, but we worked long and hard with these guys over, and analyzed what they were proposing and felt confident that, it was a good proposal. And as Mr. Stein had indicated, it does meet what the CBD, if it was only 200 yards over or so many feet, it would comply with the CBD code. So there wasn't anything that we could really say, we can approve this, because there wasn't a sign in the signage code in Channelside that we could hang our hat on. So
The clarification, what I'm trying to understand is that the applicant's asking for the board to delegate some authority to you, to urban design for approval.
Mhm.
And as the attorney, I'm concerned about the delegation of authority and there being some criteria for that. And I'm just asking so you're saying that that the CBD criteria that applies there, that the board could delegate the authority to you, and that you would apply the CBD criteria? Is that?
Well, that's not my understanding of what, as the urban design supervisor, I felt comfortable with what they were doing. Unfortunately, it just didn't meet the Channelside
and it was never intended to have this kind of entertainment district. That was never the original intent. So that 1.25 has been in the code for many, many years, and so they've asked for a relaxation of that for this particular type of development. So I certainly felt comfortable. It's very professionally done. I mean, it meets all aesthetic criteria, I think, and it certainly would fit very nicely in the CBD. Unfortunately, it's not in the CBD.
Counsel, if I may,
Yeah.
just ask a clarification question that might help this. The language about the urban development approval is not in the application, it's just in the agenda itself. And then it strikes me that it seems similar to situations where we may approve a variance that would still be subject to building code approval or permitting or things like that. And so it would strike me that though we approve the variance, urban design would still need to make its approval subsequent to our approval or disapproval of the variance.
That's correct. I just wasn't sure, based on what I was reading, if they were asking for certain authorities of the board to be delegated to urban design, and if that's not the case, okay, then that whole question was not necessary. So I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah, we'll see this again when they come in for the actual permit. So
Right.
you know, okay.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Stein, I'm going to allow you some rebuttal time if you think you need it. No?
No.
Okay.
I think the clarification was that we are, we're just asking for the board to approve the variance, but then we'll still go through all the proper channels, and now they have an avenue to approve it within a new set of code parameters, basically. Yeah.
But basically, let me try to sum up my simplistic point of view of this. You're asking for a 60% increase in the allowable amount of signage overall, 1.25 to 2. That's a 60% increase. You're asking to be allowed to put the signage basically anywhere you want on all sides of the property.
Subject is still the Tampa City codes.
Well, yeah, I understand,
yeah.
but the variance,
Yeah.
as opposed to just right-of-way
Yes.
frontage. So basically, anywhere you want, that the tenants can have more than one sign, they can have multiple signs and of different types of signage. And then the minimum elevation to the bottom of the projecting signs coming down 1 foot from
Yes, sir.
10 to 9.
Yes, sir.
That's pretty simplistic.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So let's see, so no more rebuttal. Okay, so is there any more questions? I mean, nope, okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I so move.
All right, Ms. Long.
Nobody else was
Okay,
jumping up.
board, is there a motion for approval with or without conditions or a denial? Dare.
I'm gonna make a motion, Mr. Chair, with your approval, for an approval without conditions. I move that the variance request for case VRB 19-71 for property located at 615 Channelside Drive be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing to increase the sign area from 2,086 square feet to 3,340 square feet to allow the placement of signage on any portion of the building regardless of frontage, to allow tenants to install multiple signs and types, to reduce the minimum elevation of a projecting sign from 10 feet to 9 feet for clearance above a pedestrian way. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 and 27-289 of the city code, specifically that this is a unique property in the context of the Channel District, that this property suffers additional regulations not applicable to the rest of the Water Street project, that the current regulations impact retailers differently from the application of the current sign code in this area, which was previously focused more on industrial use, and that the applicant is asking to increase the signage to what is already permitted in other portions of the central business district, which covers other portions of this project. And finally, that this is an extremely long frontage that is tough to break up, and the variance will allow the reallocation of signs, which would create a more pedestrian-friendly experience with the signage.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for approval without conditions by Mr. Feldman. We have a second by Mr. Pastor. Is there any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're approved, 4-0.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next case is VRB 1972.
Okay, property address, 3402 West Sevilla Street. Applicant name is Elizabeth and Corbett Ben. Per section 27156, the applicant is seeking to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 9 feet to construct a two-car garage. The property is zoned RS60, residential single family, and was purchased by the applicant in 1999. The existing house was constructed in 1956. There was a tree consultation conducted in February 2019. Natural Resources found it consistent. They also stated if the variance board approves the variance, the applicant must root prune the cypress at the rear of the lot where the corner of the proposed addition is requested, and the east side of the property where a 38-inch oak and the proposed development meet. Additional information is available with site plan markups on the tree consultation. Transportation wants to be sure that the applicant provides driveway access to the proposed garage. Let me show you where this is. This is over in South Tampa. It's a little bit north of El Prado, east of Himes, and here's the crosstown subject property. This is the subject parcel, corner lot, Sevilla, Concordia. This is the proposed addition back here. The 9-foot setback will be here. Here's the driveway that transportation was asking about.
Where's the tree? Where's the tree?
What now?
Where's the tree?
Tree.
I have no idea.
The applicant.
I forgot.
He left a little while ago, but I think it's been addressed.
Does that complete your presentation,
Yes, sir.
staff?
Yes, sir.
Okay, applicant, please come forward and state your name, address, and if you've been sworn, unlike Mr. Callahan.
My name's Elizabeth Ben, 3402 West Seville Street. I've been sworn.
Okay?
Let's see, I think I was gonna pass out,
We can do that.
there should be enough for everyone. The site plan that I'll walk you through is there, and then there's just a couple renderings that we've started out, just preliminary plans.
Say facing you, and face it towards you.
Yep. Oh, okay. The garage that we're proposing is here. The driveway that transportation was questioning, we drew in here so you could see that there'll be a driveway to accommodate the two-car garage. The hardship that we're asking is to make sure that it's attached. If it's detached, that would force us to put it, encroach into the backyard, which we don't want, and it's really the only logical spot. Being that the existing single car will turn into interior space, so we would want to be able to access, the interior from the garage. And we would also like to move the laundry area is in the current, is in the single car garage now, so that will become interior space. Getting the laundry inside as opposed to outside. This depicts the setback. Right now it's 20, and then we'd like to just take it to 9 feet. And then the dark lines are just the proposals of what we would like to do, and we'll continue on with the more detailed plans. But there'll be one eye of sorts back here, that may or may not go all the way to 20 feet, but it'll be in this area here. And the tree that the cypress that he mentioned sits right here, and we have a picture that shows. So you can see, makes it a little more. There's a big open space. This is where the garage will go, and the cypress tree is right here. That we can probably just trim it back a little bit. But otherwise, it's very wide open right there. So the driveway will come up here, and that'll be the garage right there, and this will turn into interior space. And we'll tear out the steps, and all this concrete will turn into lawn, and the driveway will be over here. And this is the east side of the lot. We're on a corner. The other side of the house, we did an addition a couple of years ago. That you can kind of see, but it's already been completed. But just to show you this is where we added onto the front of the house. This is on the west side. This is our neighbor with the 2-car garage. And then we have across the street from us on the east side, the same kind of thing. There's 2-car garage here, 2-car garage here. And then this is sort of adjacent to us across the villa. But they have had that 2-car garage for a while. And then this is just preliminary. It just gives an idea of the expansion. This is the existing garage. It'll just turn into all of this interior space. And then this is the 2-car garage that'll be attached that we can get into the house. And then there's an extra door to get out, to take out the garbage. And then this is just all will be reconfigured on the inside, opened up a little bit more than it is now. And then the elevation is just the east elevation to depict the attached 2-car garage. And that's it.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Okay, seeing none, board will open it for questions of the applicant or staff.
Did you speak to the neighbor that's most impacted by this, and what did they have to say? They would be the one to the south.
I mean, I don't know when really, we've had our signs out for a month or so, and nobody really said anything.
Okay.
We haven't heard a word, so I think it's probably good.
Is there a compelling reason that this couldn't be a one-car garage that's much closer to the setback? Since that's what you have now, and you're essentially sliding that over.
Yeah, I mean, we just are wanting to add some space to the house, especially to get an additional half bath to the house, because there isn't a bathroom on this side of the house except for what's inside the garage. There is a shower and a toilet in the garage, existing garage. So it's mostly to turn this makeshift space that's in the garage and make it interior space, because albeit unique, it's very odd, and and we'd like to accommodate both cars, so they're both enclosed.
The reason I ask is because there's hardship criteria that apply, and they're in your application, there's 5 of them. And so the question is, what about the property is unique or singular that would dictate the need for the setback? And
Right.
the current property has a one-car garage, and the problem you're trying to solve is more interior space. So, you build a new garage so you can fill in the old one, that makes sense, but you could build a one-car garage that would be really close to meeting the setback, or a 2-car garage that goes considerably over that setback. And so what I'm asking, is there any hardship related to this property that dictates the need for a 2-car garage, given that there's not one now?
Well, I mean, mostly I think just keeping with the neighbors. Everyone has a 2-car garage but this house. And there's no other logical place to put it except for here, because that's the entry to the existing garage. I mean,
Could you put your floor plan up on the overhead? Okay, and I'm just kind of carrying forward the question about the hardship, okay? The need of a 2-car garage is not a given, okay? Having a garage probably could be testified and shown as a need. One thing you didn't comment much about, you did indicate this lanai is being covered and expanded. Is that correct?
right.
It's not, right now, it's just what, it's uncovered area in the back?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you know what a tandem garage is? Do you know what that is?
No, I
A
don't think
tandem
so.
garage is where you park one car in front of the other, so it's very deep,
Oh,
but not 2-car wide,
Oh,
it's
wow.
1-car wide.
right.
Is there, if you didn't know about it, you probably didn't consider it, but you could almost do a tandem garage here by utilizing space in the lanai area without asking, or as Mr. Pasteur said, maybe a very minimal setback reduction. But you'd still achieve a space for 2 cars covered.
Right.
Okay, so these are the kinds of things the board has to look at.
Okay.
Your home site's a certain size, is it
Right.
different than other home sites in the area? What's causing the hardship? And if the need is for 2 cars to be in a garage, there might be another way to do it. That the board would say, okay, why not consider that instead of this? So, I'm gonna let you think about that for a second.
Right.
I'm not
I mean,
asking for an answer right immediately, but that's what the board has to do. They have to look at hardship criteria, okay? So, the fact that somebody comes in and says, well, this is what I want, doesn't make it necessarily possible,
Yeah.
okay?
Okay. Well, yeah,
Because
I mean,
again, you're doing several things here. You're modifying the interior, you're converting existing garage into living area, and then so you're gaining living area plus gaining more garage.
Right.
So the board has to ask itself, you know, is that too much? And I'm oversimplifying this,
Oh,
but that's kind of the thought process. Is there just so much being asked for here when there's, might be adequate space to still get most of what you want? And again, we're not here
Yeah.
to tell you how to design your home. That's not our job. We just have to look
Right.
at the setback, ask, you know, the request,
right.
and make an informed decision. So if there's some other hardship that you haven't mentioned to us yet, now's the time.
Well, and my understanding was the hardship is there's no other logical place to put a garage.
Okay? That's,
I mean, otherwise, a tandem is gonna be awkward and it's gonna go way back into the yard. I mean, I've never seen a tandem garage in my neighborhood, so I wouldn't want it to be an awkward home. I don't know. It just seems logical to do it this way.
well, again, logical as it relates to setbacks, you know, zoning setbacks. So
Well, I mean,
if all zoning setbacks were to go away, you have a much bigger palette to use. Logically, you could say, well, I could even have a different configuration, but that's, unfortunately, from a design standpoint, we have setbacks that we want everybody to try to stay in and maintain
Right.
for life safety, fire egress, you know, blah, blah, blah. So this home site, other than the tree, I haven't heard, you know, the issue with the tree, but even that, I think you've overcome. You know,
Yeah,
and that's not really causing the design from what we've heard. Is that
no,
a
I
true
mean,
statement?
the tree could just.
The tree really is a non-issue, is that
Right,
correct?
no, there are
Okay.
no trees in the way.
Okay. So, is there anything else you want to say about these questions?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, any other way, just, I don't think would be aesthetically pleasing, functional, or saleable.
Okay. Any other questions, board members? You actually have five more minutes, if you need it.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
If you don't mind, could I was not sworn in, but I'd
Oh,
like to.
okay, let's get him sworn in, I think.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if there anybody
Is
in
there
the back
anybody else that might speak that needs to be sworn in?
Did anyone come in late?
Nope, okay.
No.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name, address, and,
Corbett F. Ben, 3402 West Seville Street.
Okay.
My wife and I are the property owners. One of the things we really took a lot of consideration into was the building, all the building that has happened around us. Okay. We've been in this home for 20 years. The reason we've stayed there is because we love the neighborhood, we love the schools. Everything around us is very large. It's huge. Okay. Our goal and what we're trying to achieve is just by expanding our home. I'd like to have the 2 car. It's an ask. It's a want. I would clearly understand that. Okay. And if you saw some of the other pictures, the only thing we've ever been told we could do is, well, you can put a breezeway and you can have your 2nd car garage. Or you can just take up your entire backyard and put in a 2-car garage. Okay? The reason we did it this way is so that A, we could keep a lot of backyard, make it aesthetically appealing to the neighborhood, and not to really junk up the neighborhood anymore. So I do think it is a reasonable request because we look around all the time and you can come to the neighborhood. It's tear down, it's tear down, it's tear down, it's bigger house. All we're really trying to do is add this 2-car garage, maximize our interior space as a family. The deep garage would be the ugliest thing possible for that house. I understand exactly. I've seen the deep garages in our neighborhood. I've never seen them look nice at all. But I do understand exactly what you're saying. But our goal here is really to keep the character of this neighborhood. You know, we're 3 blocks away from Roosevelt Elementary where our kids went to school. And we like to see the character of the neighborhood stay that way. And that's why we haven't left, we haven't moved. We took a long time and planned so that this would look nice for us, for our neighbors, for the neighborhood, for all of those things. And if we wanted to just put a 2-car garage within the limitations, we would have just dropped it in the backyard. We would have lost the backyard. Our next door neighbors on both sides would go, wow, we're looking at the corner of a building. You know, so if we expanded it that way, because we knew within our limitations to do something like that, but we didn't. So our goal is just to make it as aesthetically pleasing as possible for all of us, for our neighbors, for ourselves.
Okay. All right, I think you made that point. That does raise a couple of questions. Go ahead, Mr. Foster.
Do you guys have a picture of that side of the house where you want to put the garage from that elevation?
Yeah. That's the garage.
Preferably one that shows the neighbor's property. Okay, so that green thing is your neighbor's 2-car garage, right?
That is correct.
And that lighter colored fence is presumably going to the property line.
That is correct.
So,
That's
okay,
their side yard, though. That's their neighbor's
yeah,
side.
their
yard.
corner also.
No, but this is their rear yard.
This is their, so this.
I understand,
yeah.
Right.
but if you look at the site plan, I'm not sure that you're right.
No, see, this is.
Joel, this is a corner home site. The
So is
area
this-
in this picture that we're looking at behind the fence is rear yard, correct?
It's their rear yard.
It's their rear yard, which requires a 20-foot setback.
Yes, sir.
And while I got you,
Within 20 feet.
Sir.
if a detached garage were considered in this area,
We didn't finish my question.
what is the required setback to the detached garage on?
It's gonna be 10 feet.
It's 10 feet, and the current house is at 10 feet?
Yeah, right, correct.
Okay, go ahead.
So, I believe, looking at the aerial, that the neighbor is also on a corner lot. I think this is their rear yard as well.
Oh, the
It
neighbor.
is.
Yeah, he's saying it's their, it's not.
So a salient point to make would be that it appears the neighbor has got the exact variance that these applicants are requesting.
We don't know if it's a variance.
Well,
they just
we don't
built it.
know that.
Well,
gotta
we
be
don't know,
careful of doing
we don't know,
testimony.
but I said it would
Right.
appear
It appears, maybe.
that their neighbors have the same
They,
layout that that these
Yeah.
applicants are requesting in regards to the apparent rear yard. That's just for color, as far as, consistency of the neighborhood and immediate neighbor who didn't protest. But I thought it was something that we'd want to point out. So Joel, you're saying that it would be a 10-foot setback if you had a detached garage?
Correct. The difference you're gonna hear is that the front is on the other side. It's,
So it doesn't meet like typical 3-foot accessory for some
no,
reason?
not on the corner side. Not on the corner. The corner side, it has, especially if it's a garage or a
Got it.
carport, especially for 2 cars, 10 feet, there's a 10-foot setback off the corner yard.
With a breezeway.
With the
We
breezeway.
could have a breezeway.
and-
Yeah, so that
No,
would,
without the breezeway.
well, without, okay.
Well, okay.
Irrelevant.
Okay, and we can't be up here testifying. Joel, could you put the aerial back up, the Google aerial? And maybe, and leave this photograph here, because maybe
Sure.
it's obvious anyway. And
Let's see.
let's do both at once. So,
It's not.
go up a little, okay, there we go. And then give us more,
This is the corner.
right, and really
This is
what
the
I want to
corner
look
here,
at is
and
the
this is what
house,
you're-
is
this
the
is the
house
garage
next
you're looking
door.
at.
Right, zoom in so we can look at the house next door. Yeah, real slow. There you go. Okay, now, can you move that more up to the middle? There you go. Okay, now overlay the photograph on top of this so that,
Enhance.
I'm gonna try.
well,
blow it up to do
basically, I'm gonna ask the applicant, how well do you know this neighbor?
He's brand new,
He's brand new.
yeah.
just moved in.
But you've been in your house for how many years?
We've been in our house for 20 years.
Okay, is his garage detached?
Yeah,
Detached with a breezeway. You can
With a
see
breezeway?
right.
Okay,
yeah.
so he's allowed to be 3 feet away from the property line?
Right.
Not on the corner.
No.
Yes.
10 feet.
On an accessory building?
It's on the corner.
It's,
On the corner, now I'm talking corner lot now, corner lot.
Yeah.
Accessory building,
Accessory building on a corner lot, this is a corner lot, this is a corner lot.
correct.
They have the same criteria.
Right.
This
What
is
is
their
the
corner yard.
the accessory setback requirement?
From the corner yard is 10 feet for the
10 feet.
garage or carport.
He's not in.
No, wait a minute.
For the corner
Off of
yard,
Concordia, it's 10 feet.
corner yard.
Off of Concordia,
Yes,
it's
sir.
10 feet. What is it to the rear yard?
Rear yard is
On it-
3 feet.
3 feet?
Yes.
Okay. It's 3 feet.
Well, I was talking to, everyone was talking to
No, I
the
know,
corner
we
yard.
had two different setbacks.
So tell me this, Joel.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to the proposed plan, which has 9 feet 4 inches to the property line.
Correct.
If it was detached, it would be 3 feet from the property line. It would have potentially a 5-foot breezeway, or 5-foot building separation minimum, and it would be 8 feet total, which is a foot and 4 inches shorter than what they've got. Point
Well-
being,
Yes, sir.
they could, within the code, have a detached garage in this exact same spot with a breezeway. True or false?
For the same size?
Same size. You slide
I'm
the
I'm
box.
worried because we have this vacated alley in the bottom
Oh, I can't.
with
could you slide
reserved
that out?
elements. I know you can't see it, hang on.
Can you
I
slide that
gotta
out?
pop up.
Now you're gonna really throw them like you.
See, we've got a vacated alley in the back here,
It's vacated,
vacated.
which they own then.
They own, but yes, but there's utility easements recorded in there that they can't build into.
Okay.
Wait.
Normally it's a
That's
5
not
foot, normally
relevant to
that's a
this
5
issue,
foot
though.
Yeah,
setback.
let's-
they treat that as part of their setback though?
You have to count it as part of your setback, so they couldn't
actually
go
helpful.
3 feet, they'd have to go 5 feet.
No, that's actually helpful.
Stop.
Well, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
My point was that in a normal corner lot that doesn't have an
Normally, they could
alley,
go 10 feet off the corner lot line here,
Yeah.
3 feet off the rear line.
yeah, and
Would you put it
get the
around
same garage in the same spot,
Yes.
but disconnected.
Yes,
Point being, they could do that, and it would take up more, it would get closer to their neighbor's house than what they're proposing.
that's correct.
yes, sir.
Thank you. God, that was painful.
And then they'd have to worry about whatever that alley is.
Okay, so we were in question and answer, I guess. So we're still in question and answer. Are there any more questions? Okay, I'm gonna turn it back to you now. You have 5 minutes of rebuttal time for all this discussion you just heard.
I think the main thing, and after the conversation about the property lines and the setback, the most important aspect of this design was to give that from the edge of the building to the property of that 9 feet. If we were to detach a garage in whichever way that's within the limitations of it, there would be no side, and you can still see it on there, is that my neighbor has a detached garage. If I look at my fence, it's right there, the side of it, his garage. And the only reason it's there is because there's a breezeway that pushed the garage over so it'd be closer to the neighbor's property. When I thought about this and we went through that, that was the reason for it. We attach it to the home, there's 9 full feet on that side of the house. That way, you can get in and out. I can still even have my yard man. There's still gonna be yard back there. The yard man can get in and out. I can access garbage cans, everything else. Even if they're for emergency services to come in, they would have a way to get around there. With a breezeway like this, most of the breezeways that I've ever seen, they've got doors on them and there's something limiting access into the home itself. So with this, that was really ultimately our goal in design, was to have 9 feet on the side of the house so it separates more from our neighbor who is right there.
Okay,
So-
all right. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, if they didn't have that breezeway, they would have more of a setback.
Right. If their house would be, there'd be plenty of room between us even more, but according to guidelines, that's what they had to do back
That's what you heard. That's correct.
then. Yeah,
Okay,
so,
all right. If there are no more questions, I would ask the board to move for closing the public discussion.
Close the public discussion.
Okay, board, pleasure, discussion, motion?
Does anybody need to discuss? Okay, I think we got it. Out there. Yeah. I move that variance request for case VRB 1972 for the property located at 3402 West Sevilla Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 9 feet with encroachment of eaves and gutters based on the applicant presenting competent substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the character of the neighborhood has 2-car garages in this fashion, including the immediate neighbor, that they could, in a conforming manner, separate this garage and not need a variance. However, that would move their garage closer to their neighbor, and that they have the oddity of an abandoned alley or whatever that is that might make that other option more complicated, and so are proposing instead to maximize side yard clearance and attach to the house.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Mr. Pastor. We have a second by Ms. Long. I do have some discussion, just briefly. I'm not going to support this. There is adequate room to do what the code requires. The lot is not uniquely different. If I had heard testimony tonight about maybe a conflict of an easement that would require them to be more than 3 feet, that could have weighed in on my decision, but based on the testimony, I'm not going to support this.
I'll just add to your comment that Joel did testify that it would be a 5-foot with that easement.
If there is an easement. There is no.
Regardless.
We don't know that there is
That's
an easement.
the best information we have.
Right.
And I would say that preserving a 50s house rather than forcing somebody to move out of it to be knocked down is also something to consider for practical use.
Yeah, I don't think a detached garage causes a house to get knocked down. I don't think that's a breezeway gives them adequate protection from the rain and access and whatnot. And that's what the code is written to cause in this corner lot situation, which the neighbor followed.
Noted. Shall we vote?
So, yep. We can call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay, we're approved 4-1.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who was the second there? Well, 73.
Yes, sir.
1973.
Property address, 2701 North Essex Court. Applicant name is Jerome and Bonnie Perino, something like that. I'm sorry. Per section 27-156 and 290, the applicant is seeking to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 5 feet, reduce the south side yard setback from 7 feet to 4 feet 2 inches, and to reduce the north side yard from 7 feet to 3 feet to construct a 2-car garage. The property is zoned RS50 residential single family and purchased by the applicant in 2019. There's an active building permit for residential alterations and renovations. DRC had no issues with the application. Let me show you where it is. Okay, this is off West Columbus, not too far away from Rich on the River. This is West Columbus. This is the subject location. This is the parcel. Rear yard setback from 7 feet to 5 feet. South side yard from 7 feet to 4 feet 2 inches. And I'm guessing this is 7 feet to 3 feet. I do not know. Where, this one here? That's 3 feet, okay. 7 feet to 3 feet for this structure here. I'm just looking. At first view, staff's not sure of this. But maybe the applicant has an explanation.
Ready? Good evening. I'm Bonnie Perino, 2701 North Essex, and I have been sworn. And maybe I can clarify where we are. So, is it okay if I put the site plan back up?
Yes, please.
Okay, so. Perfect. All right. Okay, got it. Okay, so, the property currently has a 2-car detached garage right here. It's in disrepair. We recently just purchased this home, and the 2-car garage is not structurally sound. So it has to come down. And what we want to do is rebuild the 2-car garage and create a little bit larger space. So I'm going to read you, this is more, I just gave a commencement speech to 2,500 people, and this is more nerve-wracking than that. I just want you to know that. So,
We don't mean to laugh, but you're right, it is.
It is. So I wasn't even nervous at that, at the Performing Arts Center, but this is making me nervous. So, okay, so we have, my husband and I have lived in Tampa since 1990. We've lived in all different areas of Tampa, South Tampa, Temple Terrace, Carrollwood, West Chase, Odessa, and downtown Tampa, including Tampa Heights, Riverside Heights, and Seminole Heights, is a highly desirable area. We're super excited about what's happening in that area. We're invested in the renovation and the rejuvenation that's happening at the heart of the city, and we want to make our home in Riverside Heights for many years to come. We fell in love with this home, and we're determined to restore it. It was built in 1925, and we want to restore it. And still make it feasible for our large blended family. So we have 5 children. We have one who lives at home full-time, and we have 4 in college. Yes, we have 4 in college who come home from time to time. So the home has an existing 2-car garage in serious disrepair. The current portico, which runs along the side of the house to the 2-car garage, is extremely narrow. Our vehicles won't even go through the portico the way that it is built. So garage parking is going to be essential. When we park in the driveway, we cover the sidewalk because we can't get through the portico. So we want to make sure we have garage parking so we're not parking on the sidewalk or constantly on the city street in front of the home. So as I said, it's currently unusable and it needs to come down, and the rebuild provides us an ideal opportunity to provide additional living space for our large family. And so the plan is to include an additional bedroom and bathroom when we build the 2-car garage. And that's where the change in the setbacks comes in, because we want to add that additional living space. Okay, so the property is unique because it is bordered on 2 sides by alleys. So there is really only one neighbor. The request for variance would not negatively affect traffic flow, parking, or access to either alley. The house to the north of our property is new construction, and the garage currently has a 3-foot setback from our property line. And I'll show you a picture of that in just a moment. And I do have a letter from that neighbor as well stating they are A-OK with this plan. They also have the 5-foot setback from the shared east alley, which is exactly what we're requesting. So our garage would align exactly where the brand new garage currently sits. And then as I said, the larger structure to the side would face an alley, an active alley, not another home. And so let's see. We couldn't see any negative consequences. Again, nothing to traffic. We're not going to be infringing on any neighbors. It's, failure to grant the variance results in some practical difficulties for our family to live in this area. Again, parking would be difficult for us because we would be parking across the city sidewalk and in front of the home. So let me show you a couple of pictures that help explain. So this picture shows, the top picture shows the facing front view here. This is our existing garage. And then this is the neighbor's new garage. The green building is the neighbor's new garage with the fence running in between. Then you see the rear of the two garages. Top right is their brand new garage here, and then our existing garage here. And then you can see from the back the property line. So they have a 3-foot setback. We're requesting the same setback here to build, and the same setback from the back alley to build. So the only extension would be to the other side, which is next to an alley. So let me show them this, Jay, real quick. So this is, from the back corner of our property, these are the two alleys. So basically, this is our home here, and there's an alley running this way along this side of our property, and then this alley runs to the back along our property. And the entrance to the garage would be from the back, so we would not have to go through that portico, which we can't get through anyways. And then just to show you a couple of homes around the area that have very similar garages coming off of the alleys. This is the new neighbor at 2703. This home is off the back alley at 2710 North Poplar. This is a brand new garage that they just built, facing the same alley with basically the same setbacks. And then this neighbor is across the opposite alley with the garage facing as well. As I said, we love this area. It's a 1,300 square foot home, so we want to add that additional bedroom and bathroom so that when our kids come home in the summer, they can live there with us, work down at that brand new Channelside district that's coming up, be a part of the community. And we want to preserve the home. We don't want to tear anything down. We had an opportunity to build a brand new home, and we really, really want to preserve this one because 1925, it's got the original floors, the original roof, and we just want to make the most of it and be able to live there and have it make sense for our family. So we've taken time. We have our architect here who drew the plans for the home, for the garage, and we want the garage is in keeping, the style is in keeping with, okay, cool.
Thank you very much.
See if that works.
So, okay, so there we go. So we can see the existing wood frame residence, and then the new proposed 1-story, 2-car garage, and then the proposed little studio unit. We're not going to put a kitchen in it. It's not going to be an apartment. It's just going to be a place where our kids can come home and be part of our living space and, make the home work for us in this area. I think that's it. That's it.
Okay, is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak on this? Seeing none, we'll move to questions. Board?
That was an excellent presentation. You did fine. Was this site plan submitted to the city? I don't see it in our packet.
Yes, the plans were, we submitted a complete packet of sealed plans to the city.
And those were submitted a month ago?
Yes, sir, before the deadline.
Okay, so this is another instance where it just didn't make it into our packet, but that we definitely needed this, and that's helpful to have. Thank you.
And I did have, I'm sorry, the letter from our next door neighbor. I have a letter from them stating that they're in favor, and from another neighbor stating that they are also in favor.
Please make sure that gets into the record.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Mr. Pastor.
Did you guys consider, I'm sure you did, reducing the square footage 130 square feet and not needing a variance?
We did, and we talked about that, and that was kind of where our architect came in, and we drew many different variations of the plan to try to figure out what made the most sense, and again, to have the ability to pull in off of the alley we need enough space in the garage to pull the vehicles in, and when we had the 750 square foot, it made the apartment like this wide. So, in order to make it so that we can have enough space for the bedroom and bathroom over there, and to be able to pull both of the vehicles into the garage, it increased the space a little bit on the variance.
Is there a plan in the set that you brought that shows the interior, like the dimensions, the layout?
Of the little apartment?
Yeah, on the
I
garage.
have it, but we don't have it here,
Okay,
because we were only applying for the variance part of it.
right.
But yes, it's been drawn.
Okay.
By the way, my name's Al Cordova, and I reside at 4302 Golf Club Lane, and I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Just to add a couple of comments here. Basically, the garage is just a two-car garage, as minimal as it can be, and as Bonnie stated, to get the apartment or the little studio, had to have a fold-out bed and a place to eat and a bathroom. And to make all that work is what's shown there as the one-frame studio unit. And then it's got a little covered porch, again, just to make it look a little more residential, so that it's not just a big block back there.
Yeah.
And the alignment of that porch is aligned, I don't know if that shows,
Yeah.
it aligns with the projection of the house. So it's an alignment there, so to keep that line even on that edge, we had to steal 2 feet on the other side where the existing garage is 5, now we're going to 3. And then the setback on the alleys, on
back alley.
on this alley is virtually the same as it was before. But it needs variance for all those dimensions.
And we do, and I do have the renderings, if that's something you'd like me to submit at some point, we do have that.
Only if you think it will help your
Okay.
testimony.
I don't think so. I mean, I think we've been pretty clear about what we're planning to do and why. But I'm open to other questions if you have them.
Okay, I mean, I'm sitting there trying to understand why you needed the side yard setback, and then once I realized you were over the 750, then it clicked, so. So you actually have, it appears, you have 2 driveways going to this proposed garage.
We will, but that front driveway won't be there anymore because we can't get through it we can't use it anyways.
Well, it depends on what you're driving. You know, golf cart you could.
Fair enough,
you know.
fair enough.
Although you're not Davis Island, but who knows?
Yeah, no,
you know?
fair enough. But yeah, the plan is to not utilize that driveway, and there won't be a opening garage door on that side.
Well, I mean, you could, that's not our call.
Okay.
You can do whatever you want there.
Okay, so then yes, there will be 2 driveways. But
No, we're just trying to understand the ask, you know, what you're asking for, and the 5-yard setback, rear setback reduction is because you're over the allowable 750 square feet. Just as Mr. Pasteur asked the question, did you consider making this a little bit smaller and not have to come here tonight and be nervous, other than you would have to vest the other side yard setback? Have you considered pushing this entire proposed structure closer to the house to get to the 10-foot off the alley, since you are going to be using that side as your access point? And
yes, we did that as well.
and the reason that 10-foot exists is that people are concerned about you backing out and not being able to see what's in the alley until your car is so far out. So that's why that rule exists. So what's the hardship of pushing this building 5 feet closer to the house?
Well, I'm not sure our neighbors are gonna support it at that point, because now it's gonna be sitting way in front of their garage. Where we have it now, the 2 garages will align perfectly.
It's in alignment with the garage.
They have the
next door.
exact same setback on their garage that they just built, so it will align with theirs, and the 2 structures will be, at that point, we're gonna be sitting forward, so they're gonna be sitting in their brand-new backyard looking at our garage.
Do they access their garage from this alley?
Yes.
I'm Jerome Perano, 2701 North Essex. I was sworn in. I talked, when I was at the city, this is a 20-foot alley, and then you have the additional 5 foot, so really it's 25 foot to back out, and the traffic folks, I mean.
Well, the issue is, as you're backing out, you have no line of sight until your eyes are outside.
Outside
That's
that
the
5
issue.
feet. Very good, okay.
Okay, it's not that there's more room back there.
Okay.
You know, but, so other than aligning with the neighbor, is there any other hardship that would cause you to not push this building 5 feet closer to the existing home?
I guess other than taking away the very, very small yard that we have there, there's not much in the way of a yard.
And this lot's 120 feet deep? Okay, that's a question.
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Any other questions, board members? Okay, based on the questions that we asked, you have 5 minutes of rebuttal time.
Let's see that letter.
Oh, okay.
Just read
The letter from the neighbors?
Yes.
You know, like I said, we talked to the neighbors. We've had a chance to get to know our new neighbors. We've only owned the house for a couple of months, but the new neighbors that are moving in just said we wanted to write a quick note to let you know we received your variance request. Please know that as your new next door neighbors, we support this request. And then I had another letter from
Well, that was a 2703.
right next door, right, new next door neighbors. And then from down the street, good morning, Bonnie and Jay. We received your variance request and wanted to let you both know that we support this request. Anything to enhance your home and the street is only a positive for the neighborhood. Best of luck. So I think we put a lot of thought and time into, you know, looking at different scenarios. We considered everything that you discussed, and based on, you know, our expert architect, you know, this is what made the most sense in terms of utilizing the space, making the home workable for our family, creating a space where we could both park. It's in alignment with other garages on the alley that are at 5 foot. Not only the next door neighbor, but across the alley is also 5 foot.
And I might add to that, the next door neighbor's garage is brand new. It's not, it wasn't there from before. In other words, it's not a grandfathered in garage at that dimension. So it's in alignment with something was built.
That was built recently,
Just
is what
recently.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just.
They just finished the home now.
So I think it would, you know, for them and for, you know, to not, like I said, to sit in their brand new backyard and look at the side of our garage, it would align well, and it doesn't affect anybody on the other side. There's no neighbor on the other side. The person across the alley, you know, we've talked to 3 of those neighbors across the alley, and, you know, they all were in support of it, so.
And this is somewhat of I guess, an oversized alley. Normally, alleys aren't that wide.
No, you're right.
They're usually in the 10 or 15 foot neighborhood. And this one's 20.
Both of them are 20.
Yeah, it's 2 of them.
Joel, I'm a little out of sequence here, but if this were an accessory building, the alley setback is 10 feet still?
Garage,
For a garage, it would still be 10 feet.
Yes.
Unless it was accessed from the other side, then it could be 3 feet.
Correct.
Okay. I'm sorry.
That's
Just
okay.
want to get clarification.
What was
That's
that
okay.
last comment?
Well,
Was
if
access-
this were an accessory building and the garage door was facing the house,
Okay,
the
not
building,
the
not the alley, the building
Okay.
could actually go to 3 feet instead of 5,
Okay.
okay?
And we can't face it, I mean, we can face it forward, we just can't use it if it's facing forward without tearing
Well,
off
yeah,
the
and
portico.
you testified to that. Yeah, I
So-
was just trying to understand the differences between the primary and accessory when it came to the garage door. Access, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I interrupted your.
No,
flow.
that's okay,
You
that's
still have a
okay.
minute or two.
That's okay, I think we're good, you've heard
Okay.
what we've
I
said.
guess the hardship for the 5 feet is that we can't access it from that one side.
Okay. Board, move to close the public hearing. Move for a motion and/or discussion.
I'll close the public hearing.
Ms. Long, the official closer of public.
Yeah, that seems to be.
She's getting tired.
Good job tonight.
She is getting tired. Let's close it.
You gotta get a little lighthearted here, it's late.
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
So,
Late at night.
you guys have to be quiet now. We're gonna discuss or make a motion. Anybody wanna make a motion?
I think the uniqueness of this property lies in the fact that it's on two alleys, which you almost never see.
Two alleys in a corner.
Two alleys on a corner, or a corner of two alleys. And that, the setbacks become a little less pertinent when there's not a neighbor on the other side of that line. So I think I could support it.
Anybody else?
Well, my only comment is that I can support it because of the two alleyways, but at what point, and I'm speculating a little bit here, obviously, but if the footprint came in even larger and took up more of the backyard, but the same reasons, the same hardships were given, at some point you say, no, that's too much. So that's the problem I'm having right now is, what is too much? When, if they reduced it to 750, they wouldn't even be here, other than maybe the 5-foot ask and the vesting, obviously, they have to vest. But, and yes, the 5-foot ask on the driveway primary garage door access is not egregious in this situation. And certainly the fact that it's a little bit larger than 750 is primarily, nobody asked the question how much square footage is in the covered porch. That's probably most of it. No, it does. It's roof. If it's roof, it counts, I believe. Correct, Joel? I'm sorry, but does the square footage of a covered roof, is that counted in the square footage of the?
No, it doesn't.
It does not.
No.
So an open air porch is not counted.
No.
Okay, then I'll retract that statement. So anyway, that's my only difficulty here is in this size home site that's not uniquely different in terms of size, especially with the existing home sited the way it is, there's plenty of room back there to make things fit. So that's the only thing.
Mr. Chairman, forgive me because I'm new, but it's my understanding that the board would put a motion to the floor and then have debate on the motion.
Yeah, we were hesitant in our motion, so
We
we're
used-
getting the debate out of the way.
We used to always discuss before
Yeah.
motions.
We actually have done much better.
Until very recently.
So anyway, that's all I have to say. So if somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll make a motion. Get it over with.
Well, just to answer Gary's comment from my perspective, when you ask, when does things get too big? Sometimes the marker I use is, are we infringing upon the 50% green space, which we didn't really talk about here. And, we might be. But that's what I sometimes wonder. If something starts to cut into that 50%, then maybe you do ask that question, like, are we getting too big?
Well, and I'll add that since the scale of all of this is one story, that makes it easier for me to approve it. Anyway, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll
You
make a
can't.
motion. Again.
I can't.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 1973 for the property located at 2701 North Essex Court be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction in the rear yard setback from 20 to 5, reduction in the side yard setback from 7 to 4 feet 2 inches, and to reduce the north side setback from 7 feet to 3 feet to construct a 2-car garage and a small addition. Now I lost my place. Based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that the current 2-car garage is no longer functional. It is in disrepair, so it has to be replaced. The property is on a corner lot, and 2 of the 4 sides are on alleys, so the encroachment into or nearness to neighbors becomes almost moot for this issue. The family needs additional living space, And this would provide that.
Okay, we have a motion for approval by Ms. Long. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Villa. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? You're approved 5-0.
Thank you. Thank you for staying so late for us.
All the fun stuff we think of. Alfred Street.
Last but not least, VRB case 1974.
Yes, sir. 918 West Alfred Street. Applicant name is Joe Gibbons. Per section 27-156, the applicant is seeking to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 9 feet to construct a new single-family residence with a covered open lanai. Side yards encroachment from 7 feet to 6.9 feet was approved via design exception 2. So that particular side yard setback's already been addressed. The property is zoned RS50, residential single family, and was purchased in 2018. There was a demo permit issued in November of 18, and there's an active building permit for a new construction right now. Natural Resources weighed in, and Natural Resources Inspection also mentions that the moving the driveway to the other side and away from the existing property line trees, they recommended doing that. And they must have identified the trees on site and correct sizes. Other than that, PRC had no issues. Show you the property. A very faint ink. Let me see if I can get it better for you. It's a little bit better. This is the front. This is the house, kind of a shotgun style. This is the lanai that requires the rear yard setback to 9 feet. I would give you an aerial, but it wasn't included. But if you want, I can use just a general idea of the property where I found this on the notice map. If I can get it to you. I'm not sure where this is, but maybe the applicant to give you a better idea since I don't have an aerial available.
Okay. Name, address, and if you've been sworn, Mr. Gibbons.
Good evening. Joe Gibbons. I'm with Gulf Bay Builders, the applicant. Address is 5020 North Coolidge Avenue, Tampa, and I have been sworn in. I do have to apologize. I do a lot of presentations to the BLC and the ARC, and it's a format that we have to do everything on a 24 by 36 board, foam core board. And I'll try to be loud, and I'll try to be quick. I appreciate you staying so late. Looking at the property, this is 918 West Alfred. I purchased this property last year. There was an old beyond sellage property down here. I also built the 2 homes across the street. There is an alley back here. It's not really a active alley. It's not paved. Once in a while I do see people driving down there at this stage, especially after the rain. It's kind of overgrown. What I'm proposing, this is one of our standard plans we build a lot of in Riverside Heights, and typically the covered lanai extends the entire length of the width of the home, and we reduced it down just to 12 feet. It does have southern exposure, and that's why we're requesting just to have a covered lanai back here. The other portion of the house does meet the required setback at 21 feet. Joel had mentioned that Natural Resources had went out. Dave Riley had actually, this is one of his last ones before his retirement, went out and requested that perhaps we move the drive to the other side. However, he didn't realize there's a TECO power pole here, and when I went to speak to TECO, they would not move the pole. So I went back to Dave, I believe 3 weeks ago, this last Friday before he retired, and he accepted the way the site plan is now. The floor plan. There again, it's 12 feet in width and 12 feet in depth, which creates the rear yard setback. And then the balance of the back of the home, it meets the required setback. Normally, there's an easel here. So, this is the portion here. It is open on all three sides, and these are some small columns in the back. Aerial view of the structure, and there again, this is the requested setback here on these two corners. This over here meets the required setback. I do have several letters of support. One I'd like to just read. I support the variance to reduce the rear yard setback at 918 Alfred. I have resided across the street from this property for the past 41 years and support what the builder is doing in our neighborhood. Sincerely, Joanne Ireland. And I do have 7 others I'd like to submit for the record, all in support. And unfortunately, I did receive a couple more, but it was actually on my way to the hearing this evening. I'm trying to be quick because it's late.
Oh, are you finished?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. A little pause there. I was looking over here. Okay. Anybody in the audience want to speak for or against this?
I have a perspective on the contracting purchaser.
You need to come up, state your name, address, and if you've been sworn.
My name is Richard
No, wait
Manning.
till you get to the podium.
Right, okay. Sorry.
Fine. Richard Manning, I currently reside at 6310 East 113th Street, Avenue, in Tampa. I have not been sworn. I didn't think it would be necessary, but if it would possibly be helpful in this case, I would be delighted to be sworn.
Yes, you need to be sworn in.
Fine.
Anybody else back there? Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I just am hoping for a little shade in the backyard for me, my family, and my pet. It's a southern exposure. There's no tree cover. The house is a pre-constructed. It's a what do you call it? A plan. It's not as though I could have easily chosen to have a slightly shorter house so that the lanai could be, within the ordinarily required setback. I also think it dramatically would enhance the property value in a neighborhood which is developing rapidly and with some new very large and high-end homes. And I wanted to be in keeping with that. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. We just want some shade, that's all.
Okay, anybody else? Nobody wants to speak? Board, we're open for questions. You have any questions for the applicant or the future buyer?
I have a couple of questions, and anybody who wants to answer them, feel free to answer them. What is I can't make out the dimensions. What is the lot size?
It's 50 by 120.
And what is, Joe, could you put the site plan back up? Because ours is not legible when I blow it up. What I'm interested in seeing is the front yard, proposed front yard setback.
Well, before we get into that, let me just clarify one other issue. I thought I saw an alley borders the back, the rear yard where the lanai would be placed. Is that accurate?
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
There is an alley. It's not an active alley. It's not paved.
But it's not like the lanai would be like 9 feet from someone's yard.
What is the proposed front yard setback?
It's 20 feet.
20 feet?
There's a porch that we.
Maybe you could put that portion on the Elmo. Is that, Joel, can you help him?
That's all he's got this size.
No, I know, I wonder if that portion of the front porch showing the front yard setback would fit on the element.
We could fold it.
Or you can
No,
pass it up
did
here
a
and
beautiful
look
job,
at
I don't wanna do that.
Pretty good.
Is that
No,
good?
no, not that, I wanna see the site plan. That I get.
Okay.
That I get, I wanna see the site plan.
Let's see.
Front yard, will it fit? No?
I'm trying.
Zoom out, maybe zoom out.
That's the front yard.
I am out, I'm as far as I can get.
You're out as far as you can go.
Wait,
Okay,
wait.
so it's 20, Joe, it's 20 feet to.
How about that?
Almost.
There we go.
How about that?
Perfect.
So
All right, so you're 20 feet to the front porch?
This is the front porch, and then this is the structure.
Okay, and what's that offset about? Front porch
4
to
feet.
the house looks like
4 feet.
4 feet?
4 feet.
Okay. This is RS 50. Is there any reason why the house can't be pushed forward 4 feet? It would be allowed. Give you a bigger backyard. And reduce the setback request.
You mean push the whole thing
Push
or
the whole house
house.
forward.
including the porch?
Yep, because you're allowed to do that on an RS 50. You
No,
can
but
go up to 6 feet.
Porch can go 8 feet into the front setback.
And your garage appears to be recessed, so you actually have an extra long driveway compared to other homes that are set where the garage door is right at the front of the home. These are all the great things that allow front porches to happen, which is what the code, that's why that code exists on the smaller RS 50 home sites. They're encouraging bigger and more front porches.
Right, and this is actually probably a porch of shade.
Well, Joel, would that still not qualify?
Would that?
He's got the portico, it's a deep overhang in front of the garage that's, and I don't know if it's an extension of the front porch and it's
It's gotta
designed.
be a porch, you know what I mean? It's
It
gotta
can
match- it's
only
gotta
be a porch?
It can only be a porch.
But,
Open porch.
well, legal, what's the definition of a porch?
I have no idea, but we can, if you give me a second, I can look it up.
It's open, I mean, it's,
We're all gonna learn something.
All right, got the big book out. If you really need to know, we'll find it.
I mean,
It's in 40. We have it.
2743.
well, assuming that it qualifies as a front porch and would be allowed to go into the setback without an ask, without a setback reduction, is that something the homeowner would consider?
Well, it'd still be requiring a setback variance in the back.
Yes, but it would be less than what you're
It
asking.
would be less.
Right.
I mean, I haven't thought about it, but I don't know that I would be vehemently
There's nobody after you.
opposed to
We'll give
it.
you time to think.
But I do think that I would prefer the plan as currently being offered to you. I'd rather be farther from the road in front than have a bigger backyard. I'm not a gardener. I want a place for my dog to run a little bit and to have some shade. But I have not thought about this.
Well, it's, yeah,
and
in
not
fairness to
consulted
you,
with the
you didn't
builder.
even know that option existed.
Yeah, that's very good to know. I mean, I'd rather also be a little farther from that Tico pole that is apparently not going to be something that can be moved and would be rather in my front exposure there.
Are you doing overhead power?
Yes.
From that pole to the house? So you're gonna have an overhead line draped from that pole to your house,
In any event, yeah.
in any event?
Yeah.
Right. Legal?
Mr. Chairman, there is not a definition for the term porch in 27-43, which is the definition section of the zoning code. I did find a front building facade term when I looked for front porch, but as to whether or not that term would be the term applicable here is a question I would have to defer to the zoning department as the interpreters of the code.
Let me ask Joel, didn't you say it had to be an open front
It has to
porch?
be an open porch
So-
on 3 sides, yes. Open porch,
Which it
3
does,
sides.
which it
No
is.
more than 12 feet high.
Yeah,
But
Well,
But does,
the other's
doesn't,
gonna be a lanai as opposed to a closed garage.
No, no, no,
correct?
we're talking.
doesn't a carport I mean, a carport wouldn't qualify as
It's
a
okay with
porch.
me, yeah,
and-
lanai,
And the
carport,
porta
uh-huh.
cachet
Mhm.
could be considered similar to a carport.
I think
By
that's,
no definition can you drive on a porch.
whatever.
Let's just put it that way.
If it's a low porch.
It could be a carport, but I think carports still meet primary
Yeah.
setback, so it
Well, bottom
might as well
line
be a
is- Bottom
house.
line is, it's not
Yeah,
our
okay.
job, it's not our job to define, so we can't suppose anything.
And he likes
right?
it where it is, so,
Right, and he's already testified he wants to keep it where it is.
end of that discussion. Did he find it, or
Yeah,
did he
as it's
just give
only a
up like the
one-car
rest of it?
garage, I'd like it to be possible for there to be car,
It's a one-car garage?
it's a one-car
Size of
garage.
It looks wider than that.
It's actually an oversized. We took a little bit, it's typically a two-car, but Richard is a professor and has a lot of books, and so we actually enlarged the den. You could put two.
Right, you could put two Coopers in it. But
Couple of smart
you-
cars?
But I didn't want a
And a couple
two-car.
scooters.
Yes, but I didn't, I sacrificed the two-car garage for a little more interior space. That said, if I have guests, they're gonna need to park in the driveway, and if the house is moved forward, their cars will be that much closer to the street,
Okay,
that much
that's
less
fine.
driveway area.
That's fine.
That's fine, that's fine.
It works.
Any other questions? All right, you have 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I'll waive that. I was gonna use that time to submit the letters from
You
the
can,
neighbors.
you still can. Oh, I think we already have it.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
those for the record.
Okay, board, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Well, I'll close the public hearing again with that. You wanna close it this time?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Somebody like to make a motion?
Yeah. I was gonna take it. Yeah, there's an unpaved alley.
All right. We're gonna condition it
I don't think so.
to not be approved.
Is that clear?
Motion
to open the public
Yeah,
hearing.
we need to,
I'll make a motion to open public hearing.
all right, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Do you have any objection to a condition that the covered lanai will never be enclosed with walls?
No objection.
Thank you.
I mean, I assume a screen isn't a wall.
That is correct.
Great.
Motion to close public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, somebody make a motion.
All right, I'll make a motion for approval with conditions. So I'd like to move the variance request for case VRB 19-74, property located at 918 West Alfred Street, Tampa, Florida, presented at the, as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for relief from section 27-156 in order to reduce the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 9 feet to construct a single-family residence with a covered open lanai, under the following conditions: that the covered lanai remain open and not be enclosed at any time. That said, variances condition be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record, and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that there are some unique and singular features here. One, the property has an alley to the rear, which kind of gives them more buffer. 2, discussion of moving the house perhaps forward could be impeded by the fact that there's an electric utility pole right at the property line in the front, and that's it.
Second.
All right, you have a motion for approval by Mr. Villa. We have a second by Mr. Pastor. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. You approved 4-1.
Oh, you said nay?
I
Okay.
said nay. All right, I think we're adjourned.
Right. So, point of